What's up, good people, and welcome back to another JAY-visode, a casual J. Versations. I'm your host, CJ, CEEJAY, and at Casual J-Versations, we strive to create captivating conversations, and we do that yet again as we bring in another pastor. But we'll talk about faith, but we're also going to talk about politics, and we'll get into that in just a moment. He is the leader, the shepherd, the pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church in Daytona Beach, Florida. I introduce to some and present to others the pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church. What's up, Pastor?
Hey, sir, how are you?
Man, I am extraordinary. How are you?
Man, I'm great. Just got finished preaching and mom cooked, so that's always a blessing.
That is a blessing. That is a blessing. So obviously you and your family are safe during this turbulent season, this turbulent storm that this entire world is going through, right?
Absolutely. God has been amazing and gracious and kind, and we are appreciative to be well and safe from the COVID-19, as so many others aren't. So we are definitely counting our blessings.
Absolutely. And those blessings are definitely being counted on this end day by day as well. Now, you have been the pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church for 14 years, where the mantra is the perfect church for imperfect people. Now, how did that slogan come about?
Daytona Beach is a relatively small city. We have about 65,000 people in this small town. And so we don't have a lot of new growth coming into the area. And so when I got Morning Star 14 years ago, even though a lot of people like me as an individual, people don't necessarily leave their church. People love their church more than they love their preacher and the pastor. Mm-hmm. And so I understood that. And so in a city that wasn't or isn't growing, you have to kind of work within the city, and most stable professional people already have a church home. And so we had to become outward focused, and we start looking at ways that we could grow. And one of the ways that we could grow is to reach out to the underchurch, those who wasn't Christians, and try to share the love of Jesus Christ. And so that's what we did. We went out to those who did not have a relationship. So our growth did not happen by transfer. Okay. We did grassroots growing. And so to get people excited about Jesus Christ, we just told them to come as they are. And so it's a great, perfect people. It's a perfect church for imperfect people. So no perfect people allowed at Morning Star Church.
I heard that. And we're going to touch on something that you mentioned in just a moment. Now, what actually led you to Morning Star Baptist Church?
Oh man, God had blessed me to be a full-time associate minister at a mega church, and but it was multicultural, and my heart is with the Black church. Mm-hmm. I am a student of James Cone and Black liberation theology, Jeremiah Wright, and Dr. Martin Luther King and all of those. And so I really wanted to be able to serve in my community and to serve in my area. So there was a conflict. And so opportunities became available within my community in which I grew up in. So I applied, and God saw fit to allow me to leave the mega church, the big church that I was in, and worked full time to be a part of a small church in Daytona Beach, which I'm just enjoying immensely.
Okay. Now the church, where the church is now, the church
Yes.
was not where it is now 14 years ago. Expound on that.
Yeah, God has blessed us. We have grown and taken tremendous steps. I would say that our greatest impact is not felt on Sunday mornings. Our greatest impact is felt throughout the community each and every day. And so what we did was, when I got to Morning Star, our numbers, our demographics were dismal. Our median age group was 55 years of age. We had a lot of older members. I tell the joke that my wife and I were the children's ministry, but to their credit, they understood that we needed a change. We needed some youth and some new ideas, and so they allowed me to pastor, and that's great for any young pastor to go to a traditional missionary Baptist church, and they allow you to pastor, and they allowed me to pastor, and so we became outward focused. Mm-hmm. And my church grew by way of funerals. And so a lot of young people were dying within our community without having a church. And typically you have to pay to use the service of someone's facility because you have bills and responsibilities that they have to take care of. But what we decided to do was to offer that service for free. And so and in doing that, we were able to share the love of Jesus Christ and to minister on their level without condemnation and just invite them to come to the Lord. And so we were able to grow, and we just kind of kept it. We just became an outward centered church. And, a lot of churches major in reach. For us, it's about outreach and evangelism.
Wow, now that's pretty amazing where you open the doors of the church for free to host a funeral. Now, I know that most churches have a board of trustees that they have to answer to. What was the initial feeling of the board of hosting or having these funerals for someone in the community who could not afford it? Initially, what were their initial thoughts and how did they receive that?
So when I first got there, I think we were doing a lot of relationship building and, building relationship. They're getting an opportunity to meet their pastor's getting an opportunity to meet them. So before God had ever allowed this idea to come to pass, we were already laying the groundwork without even knowing that we were laying the groundwork. And so when I was able to go to them with this, it wasn't anything that was new to something, that I had already said before. And so they knew my heart. It wasn't about me per se prospering or the church prospering. And it has been a blessing to us, even though it wasn't self-serving at all. And so God has blessed us. And the proof of it is definitely in the pudding. And we saw great numbers in our church as we did this.
Wow, that's pretty incredible because just showing how God had laid the road for you to make that path easier when that did come about. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of churches get lost in. And it does state in the Bible, he says, to help the least of those.
Absolutely.
And those who did not have a house, a Christian or a religious house to hold their funeral for their loved one, because of finances, that's helping the least of those. So kudos to that. Now let's dive into the other part, the intriguing part, the captivating part of this conversation. As you are now going to keep on your preacher's hat, but also put on a political hat, as you have thrown your hat into the politic circle by running for to represent the state of Florida in the House District number 26. Currently, the incumbent is Elizabeth Federhoff, and you also, which is a Republican, but you're going to be running also against Patrick Henry, who has served in that capacity before.
Sure.
So the $80,000 question to a pastor who is going to maintain his leadership within the church. Why?
God has given me a heart and a passion for Daytona Beach. I'm born and reared in Daytona. I'm a product of Daytona. And I think it's important, as we've been taught all of our life, if God has blessed you, he never blessed you just for you. He always blesses you to be a blessing to somebody else and to always reach back. And in pastoring and being able to be out in the community and seeing the needs of the people. Some stuff you just can't pray away. Some stuff you just can't fast away. Some stuff you just can't preach away. A lot of the disparities that are in our community can be helped with legislation and policies, and so a lot of what we're trying to do is get policies to assist, get state resources to help us in our endeavor. And so I just thought that this would be an additional way to increase our influence, and not only me running to increase our influence, but to let the young generation know the importance of being politically engaged and involved. And so I'm trying to lead by example.
Okay. Now, being at the pastor for 14 years at Morning Star Baptist Church, when you decided to do this, and I personally know you, and I know you prayed over it, and showered it with prayer.
Yes, sir.
How did your congregation accept, or what were their thoughts on you announcing to them that you're going to run for a political seat while maintaining your shepherd seat?
Yeah, at first they didn't know what that meant. They didn't know whether or not I was going to stay or whether or not I was going to leave. And for them, some knew it was a mixed bag. Some were excited about it. Some were not so excited about it. But once we had that conversation, that's the beauty of my church, is that we can talk. We can talk it through, and we can get an understanding. The Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing, and all of you're getting, get an understanding. And so once they understood that pastor wasn't going anywhere, it was okay. And they know that I have a heart for the community, and I want to see the best community that we can possibly be. And so once we were able to have that conversation and discussion, it was okay. Ironically, my senior members, who I just love dearly, those are my babies, they were not having it. We got to have a conversation, Pastor, what's going on. But once we were able to talk, it was okay. And I would just say my church, we are a close-knit family.
Okay. That makes a big difference when you're able to, one of the things you mentioned, when you're able to communicate with them and not just tell them this is how it's going to be, and that's it. You had a communication level with them, and so they would be more understanding of why you wanted to pursue this. And I was reading where you mentioned Volusia County, within that District 26, have two of the poorest zip codes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, 32114 and 32720 are the poorest, blackest, unhealthiest areas in my district. And I just believe change happens from the bottom up. And if you reach down to the bottom and lift the bottom up, those who are top of the bottom can't help but rise as well. And so for me, it's about advocating, working hard for my constituents, the people that I get an opportunity to serve, and not just my constituents, but also the whole entire district. But what got me into the race initially was those two disparities that we see across this country.
Okay. And now, being that you have launched your campaign, what has been the biggest challenge, or maybe two to three biggest challenges that you have faced thus far early on in the race?
That's an easy one. As you all know, the biggest challenge that anyone is facing right now is Corona, COVID-19. I picked the perfect time to run, right? You haven't been able to put one of my strengths, I believe, is being able to put boots on the ground and hit the pavement and knock on doors and person to person interaction. And so now, a lot of what I'm doing is social media, those type things to try to get my name out there, get my platform and agenda out, what I plan on doing. And so COVID-19 has definitely been the most challenging thing that has happened.
Okay, and I want to expound on two parts,
Sure.
two questions out of that. The first is, have those two zip codes in particular, have they been affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, absolutely. They have been, as you know, that we as people of color, we as Black people are at greater risk, and we're dying at a greater number than anybody else. And when it's bad for us, and a pandemic like this, it becomes worse. And so, but I will say that there are community leaders within our community that have taken tremendous steps to ensure that we can get COVID-19 testing, which is huge. And so I'm proud of everybody that's putting their hand to the plow and working to see better days for our community.
Mm-hmm. And that is really good information to know. And secondly, with this current pandemic, you mentioned your platform. What
Yes,
is
sir.
your platform that you're actually running on?
Well, as you know, Florida, everybody's coming to Florida. We are a big state, and everybody wants to be in the sunshine, and everybody wants to be a part of Florida. What other state is there, right?
Whatever it is there.
I'm joking when I say that, but we have a lot of retirees that come to Florida, and so
Right.
healthcare is always an issue, and to ensure that our elderly is able to have adequate healthcare, to make sure that healthcare is affordable to all people, and no one should have to go broke trying to have to decide whether to pay a bill or go to the doctor. So many people can't even go to the doctor, can't afford to go to the doctor. And so one of the things that we want to ensure, being that area code 32114 Daytona Beach, Midtown is the most unhealthy, is that people have access to affordable healthcare. So healthcare is really big for us.
Now, I know one of the things that, upon my research, dealing specifically with healthcare, but also with dealing with healthy eating options.
Yes, sir.
Are you looking to bring in more healthy eating options in your district, but particularly those two zip codes?
Absolutely. As you know, in a lot of rural and urban areas, you have a lot of food deserts where people don't have adequate transportation to get to a food market, and you don't have the necessities to be able to eat quality food and healthy food when you don't have those type of super markets in your neighborhood. And so I think that Tallahassee, which is, the capital of Florida, it's going to be a challenge to get a lot of things done, but we're going to fight, and we're going to try to get as much done. But in the meantime, I think that is important for we as a community to be creative and see what we can do on a local level, whether it's starting our own clinics so that people can get some level of healthcare, or starting farms, or whatever we can do, or gardens, community gardens, or whatever we can do to make a difference within our community. We're not taking no for an answer. We're going to have a will, and we're going to try to get something done, whether it's at the state level or the local level. We're going to try to definitely bridge those two together.
Now, you mentioned community gardens. I know there have been certain communities across this country where they have had community gardens that have been wildly successful. Most people don't realize they can grow majority of their food in their backyard. So that's a great opportunity to get fresh, good, clean food within the community by growing it from the community. Another one of your platforms we talked about, where you mentioned, was education. And how are you looking to expand on the educational opportunities within your district?
For me, it's about first, if we say that education is important and valuable, then we have to value not only education, but we have to value the educator.
Mm.
I think that is important that we put our money where our mouth is when it comes to making sure that we value our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our faculty and staff, all of our workers that make education possible and successful. And so one of the things that I want to do is making sure that we keep good teachers. And I think one of the ways we do that is making sure that we value them financially and making sure that we are paying them what they're worth. And so one of the things that I want to do in terms of education is I think that our unsung heroes are our teachers and our educators and our principals and the school board. And so what I want to do is work with our school board. I think they have the data, I think they have the research. They know what needs to be done. And so I just want to come alongside of them and partner with them and just echo what they're saying needs to be done. So education is important, and we just got to pay our teachers better.
Now, that will segue directly into living wage, from education to living wage. Now, you mentioned you want to transition minimum wage to a living wage. Now, that's a hotly debated topic of how to get it done. What are the ways that you are going to work on once elected? I'm speaking in existence to office. How you can incorporate from a minimum wage to a living wage.
Well, we know that a lot of people in my district live below the poverty line, and I just think that to be in the richest country in the world, and yet and still you have people who cannot afford to live or who cannot afford to obtain the American dream. And I think that we have to fight to ensure that every American citizen should be able to live in decency. And it's hard to live successfully and healthy and peacefully without having a living wage. We know that the minimum wage, you have to work several jobs, and we see people who are trying to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, working multiple jobs, and that just takes away from the home, from being a parent to being being there for the kids and supporting them in their curricular activities. And I just think that every American should be able to make a minimum, a living wage, and I'm going to fight to advocate for our most vulnerable citizens in District 26.
Now, have you had any resistance to that idea?
Oh, of course, there's always resistance to anything that you do, but you stand firm and you keep believing, you keep fighting, and you just keep advocating. And for me, it's about being a voice. It's about being a visible voice. It's about being a mouthpiece and an advocate for those who don't necessarily feel as if they have a voice or being ignored. And so you just keep on fighting. And yes, all of these things are challenging and all of these things are hard to do, but that's why you do it. You don't do it because it's easy. Someone said if it was easy, anybody would be doing it. So
Exactly. Now, I had an interview with a friend of mine, a judge who made history when she won the seat for her court a couple of years back. And the main thing we talked about was the vote. I've seen where people largely, unfortunately, in the African-American community, where we're really taught every 4 years you vote, but your district is actually every 2 years, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The state representative, is every 2 years. You can do 4 terms every 2 years.
Okay. And most people don't realize how important their vote is at the local state
Yes.
level, also very important at the federal level, but a lot of action takes place at the local state level. How important, express how important to people of getting out to vote in the local elections.
So another reason why I'm deciding to run is because I want to be an example. I want to let my actions speak for me. And I think that I consider myself a young Black man. I think that's a great example to show other Black men the importance of us getting out and voting. And so my running for office is an example of getting everybody out to vote and trying to get a lot of young people out to vote. I think that if we in District 26 get out and vote, we have a great chance of winning this election. And so just my presence alone, and we've been out asking people to register to vote and just trying to hammer that message home and not get discouraged when they don't want to register to vote.
Right, just keep going, one vote at a time, for sure. Well, we want to get ready to wrap this interview, but we want to give you your lasting words, your parting shots per se, what you have for any constituents that could be voting for you, or anyone that will be listening to this interview. What message you want to get across?
Well, King says this. I love quoting King. You can't go wrong quoting the great Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King says, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And I think that's our time to be great. We just got to be willing to serve. And so I'm excited.
Awesome. Now, good people, if you want to learn more about Evans, you can go to his website, evansforflorida.com. That's Evans, the number 4, Florida.com, to learn about his campaign, to learn about his platform, to learn about the why, even more expounded more than this interview, but also to donate and contribute to the campaign. Because in order to run a successful campaign, you need successful dollars, simply put. So Evans for Florida, Evans for the number 4, Florida.com. Good people, I thank you so much for joining us. Pastor, I thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us on this captivating conversation. I appreciate it. Well, good people, if you want to keep up with me, you can keep up with me at Twitter and Instagram at I am CJ Joseph, on Facebook at Casual JAY-visations, and look for casualjayversations.com. It is coming soon to you. So until the next time, peace and be blessed.
Thank you.